Hey there, Internet! Welcome to the Hard On Gear channel, where I discuss and review my used and abused knives and gear so that you know what is or isn't worth spending your hard-earned money on. The brand that brought me into the knife world, Cold Steel. So today we're going to be talking about 10 Cold Steel knives that I think you should probably grab, ones that I'm probably looking to grab. And now that we know Cold Steel's changed hands, Lynn Thompson is no longer the man in charge, we can't say for sure what's going to happen in the future. So if you want some of these models, just in case some of them end up becoming discontinued, 2021's probably the year to make that move. As of June 2021, I don't know of anything for sure that's supposed to be happening with this whole Cold Steel takeover, but if anyone knows any models that are supposed to be discontinued or changed, or if anything major's happening with the lineup that I'm unaware of, I'm sure everyone would appreciate down in the comments section if you let us know what you've heard. If you've watched any of my videos or you've seen the review for this fella right here, then you'll know I've carried this thing around for many years in my pocket. I've beat the living crap out of it. This Cold Steel Recon one really is the flagship knife of this channel and the whole reason that I got this whole thing started. So Cold Steel, and particularly the Recon one, do have a large draw to me, as they really did walk me into the knife world. So I also own the Cold Steel Burden game knife, as well as the Cold Steel medium Luzon. I picked up the budget Cold Steel paring knife just to try it out and see what kind of kitchen tools these guys are putting out. I've also got a few ridiculous things, like this little Brooklyn Shorty Cold Steel bat. This is for playing baseball, of course. I just keep this thing above my bed, just in case, somebody happens to stroll into the house late in the evening and they're looking to play a game of ball. I want to be able to oblige them without too much effort. And because I'm a martial arts nerd and they've created these budget machete-style swords, I happen to have picked up the Cold Steel Tanto and the Wakizashi and Katana-style machetes. This list will be mostly folding knives, although there is a fixed blade or two that'll be popping up here. This list is in no particular order. There are a couple of knives that I plan on picking up fairly soon, but if there are ones that stick out to you that you'd like to see me prioritize my budget towards, just let me know down in the comments and I might pick those up sooner than the others. So first, a few honorable mentions, just a few models that you won't see on this list but are still definitely on my radar, but they didn't quite make that top 10. These include the AK-47, which is an awesome knife, a little too boxy, a few too many sharp edges. It's, even for me, just maybe a touch too tactical. The 4-inch Tuff Lite, another really cool knife that's pretty close to things that we're not supposed to be getting here in Canada, such as switchblades, OTFs, anything that's like an automatic knife. Now the Tuff Lite's manual, it's a flipper, it's meant to mimic that stiletto style switchblade, but you won't get tossed in jail for carrying it in Canada or a lot of the states where you're not allowed carrying such a thing. Mind you, it is a 4-inch blade, so if blade length is a limitation in your area, just keep an eye out for that. I'll probably grab one at some point. They're cheap enough that I might end up grabbing one in the next year just to mess around with, but I don't see me really needing it or wanting to carry it anytime soon. Another folder that's just a little too tactical and a little too heavy duty for even most of my use is the Spartan. Not to say that the AD20 or 10 or 15s aren't close to that same level of size and ruggedness. However, the Spartan I can't see me really wanting to use that over other large folders. The grip looks cool and I could see me grabbing one eventually, but it seems to be pretty much a defensive knife. I guess the overall design of it's just a little too loud for my liking and preference. The Drop Forged Wasp is a pretty sweet, very thin, stiletto-ish style fixed blade, a dagger type knife that's basically meant to be a penetrator. That's certainly not a utility knife. It's certainly not an EDC knife. There is no doubt about what that knife was made for. Therefore, I do not have much of a purpose for it in Canada for my current job or anything that I would possibly want to carry that for. You can't really justify carrying something like that in Canada for EDC use, and if you do, I'm sure a cop might give you a hard time about it. Last honorable mention, which technically is not a Cold Steel knife yet. They may do a production eventually like they have with the AD10s and 15s, but the Andrew Demko AD20, super awesome knife, designed by Andrew Demko, like at least half of the freaking knives on this list of mine. That shark lock is super cool, and that is a knife I'd love to get my hands on when I feel like blowing that kind of dough or when they come out with a cheaper production version. So now moving into the list, first off we have the Cold Steel SR1 Lite. Could go with the regular SR1 with the S35 VN, but I'll be getting at least 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 folding knives from Cold Steel that are going to have that S35 VN. The SR1 Lite to me would be something I want to test out on this channel because it really seems like it might be the best budget folder that acts like a fixed blade that you could use in just about any scenario and expect that it's going to hold up for many, many years of long-term use and abuse. And that Lite comes in around 60 US or about 75 Canadian. That knife will probably last you as long as you're able to physically carry a knife in your hand. Or if you want to step it up, you can go to the next one, which is the AD10. Probably widely considered at this time to be the most rugged folding knife of all time. One video I'll be doing at some point will be my apocalypse knife. What knife would I bring into the apocalypse? All kinds of folks in all kinds of popular channels have done this before. A lot of folks seem to be leaning towards the AD10 as being that knife, so I'm kind of hesitant to do that video until I've got something the AD10 or the Formax Scout or something similar to those kind of extra thick, beefy triad lock knives that make the Cold Steel Recon 1 look like a little bit of a puss. Now the AD10 has got AUS 10A steel, which is an upgrade from AUS 8. Japanese made, very good quality. Not as good as your S35 VNs and all that, but still for a rugged bush beater knife, it's definitely an upgrade from the AUS 8 that I had in the Recon 1. So I hear, at least. I've yet to try the AUS 10A, but I'm sure I will on one of these cold steel folders very soon in the future. Certainly is a nice upgrade over that SR1 Lite with that 8CR13 MOV steel. One of the best budget steels that you're going to find in that price range, but still not going to hold a candle to that AUS 10A from what I've read. But you're going to be paying about 190 or so US or about 230 Canadian for that AD10. So you're paying quite a bit for that AUS 10 blade steel, but there's a lot of other craftsmanship and work and good materials and build that's gone into that design, aside from just the blade steel that you're paying for. Or if you're feeling fancy, you can move up to the AD15, check out that Scorpion lock and see what that's all about. I'm going to be trying that out sometime in the near future. The AD15 Lite is probably what I'm going to go with. The original AD15 is going to cost me about 300 Canadian, 220 American. With the Lite version, you're paying about 130, 135 US, about 140-50 Canadian, which is rare because in a lot of these prices, you're going to see a huge jump from American to Canadian. Some of that's the exchange rate, a lot of that's the difficulty to ship some of these knives to Canada, and just the limited numbers, therefore the supply and demand ends up jacking the price up a little bit for us. A little unfortunate, but just part of us not really having a lot of these manufacturers within Canada. So with the original AD15, you've got the standard S35 VN from Cold Steel, which has been the standard for most of their baseline models since 2018, after making the move from CTS XHP, which they used between the years 2015 and 2018, but that was hard to source, so they moved up to S35 VN. That original AD15's also got G10 handles, which once you go down to the AD15 Lite, you're looking at AUS 10A again with the FRN or GIRN handles, whichever they're using. Glass reinforced or fiberglass reinforced nylon, just really good quality plastic. Yeah, for 150 bucks, I'll probably end up grabbing that AD15 Lite before I grab the AD10 or before I even grab the next knife on the list, which is the Formax Scout, which is another budget production version of a previously more expensive and harder to attain cold steel knife, the original Formax, which costs you about 500 bucks or something crazy like that. But the Formax Scout is a much more budget production run, which is going to be about 110 US, 150 Canadian. Still pretty much the same exact style and design of the knife, just with cheaper, more affordable materials. So there are a few things that make that Formax original a little bit more expensive. However, the biggest difference you're going to find is the difference between AUS 10A and the S35 VN. So really, for me to pay an extra 300 and some bucks, 400 bucks maybe for that knife, it's just not worth it. Definitely be grabbing the Formax Scout, like a lot of you out there, before I ever grab the original. Just gonna slide in here right quick to say that if you are enjoying this content, go ahead and hit that like button, as it's going to help send this video out to more knife enthusiasts, as well as if you want to hit subscribe and the bell and all that stuff. There's also Amazon affiliate links down below. If you click through those links to do your knife or whatever shopping you're gonna do, it'll help give the channel a little kickback. And there's also the Hog Patreon at the top of the description below. If you are interested in supporting the channel that way, just know that all the funds donated through that account will be used directly for purchasing knives and gear and other stuff for the channel. Thanks for listening to that annoying plug, and back to the video. Number 5, coming in as the only fixed blade on this list, the SRK in SK5. Could get it in a couple of fancier blade steels. I believe it comes in either 3V or maybe also VG10. But the SKS version is the budget one that comes in around 40-50 American or about 80-90 Canadian. Now the model has changed a little bit and they have upgraded and updated it as the years have gone on, but this knife has been the issue for Navy SEALs buds candidates for I think the last 20 years or so. Very popular, very affordable, very rugged and hard use approved. But I need to find that out for myself, so I'll be grabbing one of these soon. In my recent fixed blade wish list video, I talked about the SRK and why I wanted it. And there's a bunch of different reasons, but I really think it's going to be a really good fixed blade for everyday use. Maybe not for everyday carry use, but for everyday for me working in the woods and doing different things where I might be in need of a larger knife, but I can also get away with carrying it. It'd be able to do everything I need it to do, plus it can throw pretty well. At least it looks like it should be able to throw pretty well, so maybe that'd be a fun all-around good apocalypse slash end of the world slash tactical slash whatever knife. I'm going to be grabbing one of those SK5 SRKs pretty damn soon. Back to the folders. Number 6 is the Kiridashi, which is a knife I didn't actually plan on putting on this list, but I did a quick little scan through of Cold Steel's catalog just to make sure I wasn't missing anything. I kind of knew what this list would be ahead of time. Not exactly, but there's a ton of Cold Steel models I've been looking at for a while, so this wasn't a hard video to plan for. But the Kiridashi caught my attention. I'd looked at it before and just scanned over it, but when I really looked at some of the videos for this, I didn't realize how damn useful this knife and the blade style would be. Super affordable at about $35 American, only about $45.50 Canadian. Triad lock knife, a little bit cheaper materials in the 4034 SS steel. Never used it before. The handle's made of Grivery, which is a little bit cheaper than your FRN GRN G10. This is meant to be a utility knife that you can get away doing a lot of fine, crafty kind of work with. So it's got that plastic clip. Cold Steel's using it. Lynn Thompson specifically put it on there. On a lot of these knives, like the Double Safe Hunter or the Luzon, just to make sure that you don't have that hot spot you'll get with other knives where if you're using it for a long period of time, that pocket clip could dig into your hand. The Recon one, and this pocket clip in particular from Cold Steel, is actually really good at avoiding that anyways. But supposedly that plastic clip is the next level of comfort, although a little bit less durable. But I could see for doing like little woodwork projects, or I'm trying to get into like a little bit of whittling. There's pretty much always some dead trees or logs or wood around that I could whittle, and I pretty much always got knives on me, so it's a hobby I'm going to try and get a little more into. I think the Kiridashi would be a pretty sweet little knife just to keep in a backpack or an extra pocket if I am out in the woods on the line or doing something where I might be stuck in a hurry up and wait kind of situation for 3, 4, or 20 hours or whatever. For the price of that sucker, and now knowing how much I think I'll use that and keep that on me for work, I bet you I'm going to grab that sometime in the next couple months. Number 7 is the Cold Steel Code 4, a awesome looking little Cold Steel folder, kind of like the Recon 1 Lite, I like to think of it as. Pretty much the same size and almost the same length and blade length as the Recon 1. It's pretty comparable, except it's a little bit less, it's a lot less tactical looking. If you're looking for a full-size EDC knife from Cold Steel that's not going to be quite as bulky, a little bit thinner than the Recon 1, and definitely a little less tactical. The Code 4 would be a solid choice for anyone looking for that generic Cold Steel knife to give them something that they can use every day without getting some nasty Cold Steel stares. And for the price of it, it's probably one of the best full-size EDCs that you're going to be able to find on the market if you want it to last for a long time and if you're someone who actually uses the crap out of your knives. For about 80 to 100 bucks American or about 140 bucks Canadian, pretty sweet buy. It's definitely going to be on the list. It's high up on my list of Cold Steel folders that I'd like to try out. Keep an eye out for that in the Hard On Gear future. And probably the most popular Cold Steel EDC knife without the tactical feel to it is the Cold Steel American Lawman. And I say without the tactical feel, although it is very much called the American Lawman, and it does kind of look a little tactical. It's much more EDC suited and a little bit more EDC size than the other knives on the Cold Steel folding knife list. Now the Recon 1 comes in about 9 inches, the Code 4 comes in around 8.5, the American Lawman is just 8.125, 3.5-inch blade length, so still a decent size knife. You can still get just about anything done with it size-wise. It's going to come with the same S35VN blade steel as the Code 4 or the new Recon 1s, or most of the other base model Cold Steels within that price range of about $100 to $200+. But between those three, I believe those are Cold Steel's top EDC folding knives that they sell, or at least very near the top. Again, comment bandits, just fact check me on any of that stuff. Moving into something I won't be using for an EDC anytime soon, but I'd still love to grab, is the Cold Steel Voyager XL, particularly the Vaquero blade. Am I saying that right? Vaquero? I'm not very good on my Spanish. We don't do a lot of Spanish in Canada up here. So the Vaquero blade's pretty cool just because it's very much something I don't have in any other knives in Canada where I'm not going to really carry it. I'm going to use it for videos and for fun and maybe actually carry it in the woods. I'm going to go full Lynn Thompson and grab that XL because as I believe Lynn Thompson and others have mentioned before, those knives aren't all for self-defense. They're not all impractical and just for novelty's sake. If you want to carry a big fixed blade in the woods for whatever reason, whether that's wildlife self-defense or even just to chop some shit down, maybe you need a little extra blade for doing some camping tasks, you get away with carrying a massive freaking folding knife that essentially acts with that triad lock as a fixed blade, except you can get it into a package of half the size. So if you do want to carry something like that and not draw as much attention to you, for me, even where I'm working in the woods and I might be going out with the intention of doing some kind of wildlife survey or something with a larger machete, that still kind of looks a little odd to the public. I could really get along a lot of the same things done with a larger Cold Steel folding knife this size and not have anyone actually know I'm carrying it on me. But in Canada, like I mentioned before, we are not allowed carrying knives for self-defense or anything like that, not allowed concealing knives on our person, so I had to be pretty careful about where I carry it and how I carry it. And the last knife on the list is totally different from pretty much everything else on this, as this knife is 100% utility, no tactical prowess to it whatsoever, and it's not like most things that Cold Steel sells or makes. It's the Cold Steel Tuff Lite. They've also got the Tuff Lite Mini, which is a smaller version, but a little bit less utility for me. I don't see me ever using the light version, just too small. The full-size Tuff Lite, for about 30 bucks American, about 50 Canadian, is probably one of the best work knives that you can ever buy from any brand ever. I don't know that from experience though, so I've actually got one on the way now so I can start testing it out, because it's one that I really think is going to get a lot of use. Anyone I know who does a lot of work would probably benefit from having one just to stick in their vehicle or in their tool bag or anywhere where you might just need something to do some cutting, where you don't care if you ding the blade up, you don't really care if you get it dirty, and worst case if it gets lost or stolen, it costs 30 to 50 bucks. I could see me very well using this for a wildfire type knife. You've probably seen different YouTube channels brag these knives up before. I know I've heard plenty of people talk them up. I can't see why there'd be a downside to buying one and sticking it in my vehicle if I don't find any other use for it. So keep an eye out in the next few weeks. There'll be a Tuff Lite unboxing video, and then keep an eye out in the future for these other Cold Steel knives, as I'm sure I'll be grabbing more than one Cold Steel as the next few years go on. Phenomenal knives, phenomenal company, one of the best hard use knife companies on the planet. As far as folding knives go, it's pretty damn hard to argue that Cold Steel makes the most hard use folding knives of all time. Now, if you're looking for good quality budget fixed blades, as well as some cheap budget, I say cheap, but budget, well built for the price, novelty items like different swords and stuff. I've also got like that Cold Steel Gladius down there, for example. If you're looking for all kinds of cool different fixed blade knives and swords and stuff, check Cold Steel out. They've got a ton. I might do a whole different video just talking about some of the Cold Steel fixed blades I'd like to buy, but I just don't see me purchasing in the near future. I've been using knives like SE and K-Bar for my outdoor fixed blades, so I haven't really gotten into a lot of Cold Steels. This is really more of a video of the Cold Steel knives I actually see myself owning in the next 1 to 3 years, just to give you a little bit of a teaser as what you're going to see on this channel as far as Cold Steel knives go. And if there are any that are not on this list that you think absolutely should be, please let me know down in the comments. I've got full videos on both the Luzon and the Recon one, going well into depth about all the specs, history, and details that you could possibly want to know on these knives. So check those videos out and just click on wherever you can click here to get to those videos. And for now, this is the Hard On Gear channel signing off.